Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. And I'm rising today to express my serious concerns about Bill C-50. Now, this bill is called the Sustainable Jobs Act, and this is typical of what Liberals do. They pick a name that sounds good. I mean, who doesn't like sustainable jobs? I like sustainable jobs. I think all Canadians want sustainable jobs. So it sounds really good. But the problem, Madam Speaker, is that in this bill, there's no plan to create sustainable jobs. This is a plan to get a plan. And the bill outlines how they're going to put together a council. Well, based on past behavior, I would suggest that these would be highly paid Liberal insiders that will get these jobs. And they will advise on what the plan ought to be. And the timeline of when they're going to come up with what the plan ought to be should be by 2025, coincidentally just after the next election. So they don't have a plan. Nothing says we don't have a plan like a bill that's introduced to get a plan. So that's the first thing. Second thing is they've got another role of a secretariat that's going to do some coordination. Another highly paid Liberal insider when they get the plan, okay? So the problem is that's it. That's all. A plan to get a plan and some principles that are motherhood and apple pie that we would all agree. They need to be well-paying jobs. We need to care about the environment. We need to respect, labor. All of these good things. It's all motherhood and apple pie, but it doesn't have a specific action that's going to help. On the other hand, it's going to hurt. So the analysts of this very government have said that as a result of Bill C-50, it will kill 170,000 direct Canadian jobs. It'll displace 450,000 workers directly and indirectly working in the energy sector, and it'll risk the livelihoods of 2.7 million Canadians across all provinces. So it's going to destroy as many as 2.7 million jobs when there is not a single action in this bill to create any sustainable jobs at all. And so that's a problem. The other thing is it's going to cost a lot of money. So right now the energy sector provides 10% of Canada's GDP, and it pays over $20 billion in taxes to all levels of government every year. And last year, $48 billion in royalties and taxes were contributed by the energy sector. So not only does this bill purport to get rid of that by eliminating that sector, but if we look at other places in the world that have actually come with a sustainable jobs plan and are starting to implement it, Scotland would be one example. If we take their example and we take the cost per person of their plan and did the equivalent thing here, it would cost $37.2 billion. So you're taking away as much as $48 billion, you're adding a cost of another $37 billion. Do the math. You're increasing almost greater than $70 billion lost to the Canadian economy. And I don't know why the Liberal government cannot learn the lesson when they've had countless people from former Liberals like John Manley saying when they run these huge deficits, it's putting their foot on the inflationary gas pedal, which is causing the Bank of Canada to have to put their foot on the brake with hiring interest rates, which raises the cost of mortgages. Canadians are suffering from coast to coast. So definitely, not only is the bill not going to create jobs, but it's going to come with a huge amount of cost. And Madam Speaker, it's not like this is the first time that there's been an attack on oil and gas in the energy sector. This is a continual theme from the time I got elected in 2015. Let's start with the tanker ban, Bill C-48. Keep Canadian oil from getting out there when everybody else's ships are out there full of oil. And then we had C-55 that created marine protected areas, so you could do no oil and gas development there. And then there was Bill C-69, the No More Pipelines bill that was just called unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, okay? All of these things intended to be a war against creating oil and gas projects. And the evidence is, when the Liberals took power, there were 18 LNG projects on the books, and there were 4 pipelines. 0 pipelines have been built, and all the LNG projects but one are canceled. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, our friends in Germany were going to give us $59 billion to replace their Russian oil and coal with our green LNG. And the Prime Minister said there was no business case. So Australia took that deal. And then Japan came with a similar deal. And again, we wouldn't take that deal. And so, Saudi Arabia took that deal. Then France and the Netherlands, and all of these opportunities for Canada to be a leader, supplanting higher carbon fuels with our green LNG, the most responsibly produced product in the world with the best human rights record. But again, the Liberal government refused. Now, instead, they're focused on their own ideology and things that they want to do that continue to destroy the economy. I mean, we can talk about the electrical vehicle mandates. That was another great idea. Let's give away $31 billion to create 3,000 jobs. For those of you that can do the math, if you just gave each of those 3,000 people $10 million, they'd never have to work again, and there wouldn't be any footprint. So, again, a total misunderstanding of how to create a growing economy. And then the electricity standard, another hugely divisive bill that was introduced by the Minister of the Environment and Climate Change, clearly not understanding that where they want to go with all of the electric vehicles and the electricity in the grid would require the building of the equivalent of 19 nuclear facilities like the one we have at Bruce Power. They can't build anything, Madam Speaker. So I don't know where they get the idea that they're going to be successful in achieving that. At the same time, they're ignoring the fact that only 7% of the public even wants an electric vehicle because the technology is not there. You don't want to be trapped in a snowstorm at -30. The batteries don't work. They catch fire. In addition to that, they don't have a very long range. But instead, this government decided to pick a winner and loser with the battery plants that are being built. And now Toyota has come out with a solid-state battery, 1,275 kilometers range, works at -20, it doesn't catch fire. And so that will make our technology obsolete, $31 billion after the fact. Maybe the Liberal government needs a few more engineers over there so that they can actually make science and fact and database decisions. But that's not what's happening today, Madam Speaker. And so they continue to move the carbon tax, the second carbon tax, putting punishment on the backs of Canadians and achieving nothing. Emissions have gone up under this government. So we were starting at, the 2005 level, 532 megatons, 732. We need to get to 519, and now we're at 819. So they're not achieving their targets. They keep putting bills like this in place and talking about sustainability, the environment, and creating jobs, and they're actually not achieving it. Madam Speaker, Sarnia-Lambton has got a huge oil and gas sector. But you know what? We know how to do a transition. We are doing a transition. We're creating good-paying, sustainable jobs like the ones at Origin Materials, which is a net-zero plastics plant in my riding. We've got one of the largest solar facilities in North America. We have a whole bio-innovation center that is growing different kinds of bio-facilities that are all either carbon sinks or carbon neutral. And so these are the kind of actual solutions and actions that we need. That's not what we have in C-70, Madam Speaker. It is a plan to get a plan with nothing else. And so for that reason, I will not be supporting Bill C-50. Thank you.